Project planning activities pick up where initiating processes began to leave off. Now remember that the processes specific to project initiation centered around two major activities, one being the project charter and the other being stakeholder alignment. Together, they permit the project manager to take the reins of the project and identify all of the individuals and groups that have a vested interest in the project. That interest can be in favor of or against the project. A good project manager needs to be cognizant of and able to manage the real deliverables and expectations of both. Once you have an idea of what the project is expected to deliver, you can organize activities that will provide for the project team and commence planning activities. The planning process group is the next set of processes that oversee project lifecycle work that develops deliverables or work packages within the project. Pay keen attention to the terminology used to describe project activities. Deliverables and work packages are one and the same and describe the work that will be developed as part of the project plan. A work package pertains to the project work breakdown structure and details what needs to be delivered by the team that will actually do the work, hence the word deliverable. Work packages are the lowest element within a project work breakdown structure. They are important because they detail activities that will be monitored and measured as development work takes place to permit earned value analysis to take place, which helps determine the project's productivity at specific points in time, known as project milestones. Work packages are also important because they are used to drive control account activities. Control accounts are used to align project deliverables to accounting requirements and ultimately the project's budget. The project manager needs to oversee the manner in which expenditures hit a project's bottom line. If they spend too much money up front, they run the risk of not having the future funds to complete the project. Control accounts enable the project manager to plan on what needs to be spent and when it needs to be spent throughout the project lifecycle. Now from there, it can be a simple process of understanding the burn rate of your project capital. Spending too much too soon creates a risk. Spend less than planned and your project could be completed under budget. Planning activities are critical to the overall success of a project. Now, not enough planning will generate excessive change requests and will impact the integrity of the project's manager and tax the project management team. Too much planning can create excessive work beyond the requirements of the project and could impact the budget of the project by expending too much money on project activities that were not planned for. So the right amount of planning is the product of expert judgment, collaboration, and subject matter expertise. The planning process group details processes from all knowledge areas. In fact, the majority of project process activities take place within the planning process group. In all, 24 of the 47 processes take place within the planning process group. Let's take a look at the processes involved within planning by knowledge area and apply it to a hypothetical project. The project of choice will be to build a house. Now we've moved beyond the project charter from the initiate process group and are about to develop the project plan, which is a product of the project integration management knowledge area. The project plan relies upon the project charter and planning processes within the remaining knowledge areas. Each area contributes a plan specific to the processes within. So, activities pertaining to scope will be detailed within the project's scope plan. Activities pertaining to time will be found within the project's time management plan, and activities pertaining to cost will be located within the project's cost management plan, and so on throughout all the knowledge areas. All of these plans are known collectively as subsidiary plans within the project management plan. If you were to think of the project management plan holistically as a file cabinet, the subsidiary plans would be considered as folders within the file cabinet. Within the folders would be the specific plans, documents, or artifacts that pertain to each specific plan. Conceptually, that is a very effective way to manage your project artifacts. Now, if we were to develop a project plan for building a house, then we would take high-level details from the sponsor point of view and begin to determine the scope of the project. Requirements like the dimensions of the rooms, the total square footage of the house, how the house will be suited on the property. The types of materials to be used for floors, walls, and ceilings would be gathered and documented. Based upon those requirements, activities that are not in scope will also be determined and documented. Now, based upon those definitions, the project's work breakdown structure will be developed. The work breakdown structure provides a hierarchical illustration of the project, broken down by task to work packages that will come to represent the critical path of the project. Once all the details pertaining to the house, such as clearing the land, pouring the foundation, framing the house, adding walls, electricity, and plumbing are identified and decomposed to the level of work required for each, time management processes will be used to further define sequence, estimate resources required, durations, and arrive at a schedule for work to be driven by. Once the activity estimates are in place, we can then apply cost management processes to determine costs at the work package level. So let's assume that it will take 5 resources 3 days to clear the land, and each resource is paid $10 an hour for 8 hours of work a day. The resource cost for the activities within that one work package would equate to 5 resources times 3 days times 8 hours per day times $10 per hour, or $1,200. Now, the same estimating process would take place for all other work package level activities. The total project estimate would be the combination of all those work packages. Cost estimating and cost budgeting will provide for the working capital, and the project manager will oversee activities by. Now, while the WBS is being developed, each work package should have a designated and/or determined level of quality aligned, so the project team can work to ensure that specific quality thresholds are in place to drive activities by. Without a quality directive, the project team may deliver sub-quality work, which could require changes, rework, or revisions, or could apply too much quality, which in turn may drive the project over budget. The project's human resources plan would serve to ensure that the right resources are available in regard to the project's scheduled activities. For this example, the project manager would schedule electricians to perform their work only after the house is framed and enclosed. The project manager may choose not to deploy electricians and plumbers at the same time, as the space they work in may be the same and their work efforts could be compromised by the teams getting in the way of each other. Within the planning process group, the communications subsidiary plan is developed and aligned to the stakeholders identified during the initiate process. Communications plans help the team coordinate efforts while keeping the remaining stakeholders informed of the project's progress. Relevant to our example, the communications plan would provide the sponsor with progress reporting on an agreed-upon interval. Now, it would provide the team with details in regard to work in progress and would provide vendors with details in regard to raw materials and timing of deliverables. During the planning process, the majority of risk processes are driven to ensure that all potential risks are considered at the work package level. Think about it. If you ask the question about potential risks for each activity that develops a work package, then you can develop a risk log that correlates to the project schedule and manage potential risks based upon probability and impact. The risk management subsidiary plan, identification of risks at the work package level, qualitative and quantitative risk analysis, and risk response planning are all risk-related processes that occur within the planning process group. So as we apply the concept of risk to our home project, can you think of some potential risks the project team may encounter? How about raw material availability? Inclement weather. What if the sponsor changes their mind and wants a different type of structure? How about local zoning and work permits? What about resource availability? Are the electricians scheduled available to work during that period of time? All of these are examples of risks that can be applied to each activity. Once identified, they should be added to the project risk log and managed, predicated upon the probability and impact if the risk were to be realized. Finally, the project manager needs to ensure that a procurement management plan is in place that will cover vendor-related activities. Now, within the procurement management subsidiary plan, the project manager will detail the procurement needs for the project, the type of contracts that will be used, and the manner by which those relationships will be managed. Relative to our example, the project manager would ensure that the lumber yards that will supply the wood have the ability to deliver the raw materials when needed. The same for the electrical supplies, plumbing supplies, and all other raw materials needed to construct the home. Procurement may also require contractors or resources hired under specific agreements to deliver specific work. Union-based plumbers and electricians are good examples whereby the project manager would need to be aware of contracts in place and manage to them.